You're listening to the Act As If podcast with Coach Roel. Real life success stories in business and investing as they happen. And now, here's your host, Coach Roel.
All right, welcome back to part 2 of our Act As If interview with the illustrious Bobby Brass of Kuya Productions. And welcome back, Bobby.
Hey, what's going on?
It's funny. I've mentioned this a couple of times. We do these in one sitting, but when people who are like listening out there in the podcast or watching it on YouTube, it's probably released about a week in between. I'm excited to talk to you at the present time as we're recording this, because the first part, if you guys are watching this, you didn't catch his part 1 interview, hit pause on this, go check out the part 1 interview first to get some context, and then come back to this one. So Bobby, how much of what you talked about in the previous interview was objectively real and how much is aspirational?
Okay.
What's true today? What's not?
Oh, okay. So
the app.
So the app, like we're literally trying to secure this funding.
Okay. Yeah, because last time that's cool. But in that sense, though, which was cool, is that you acted as if you already had it. How did that feel? You're working towards securing the Series A. Right?
Yes.
Currently.
Yes. And there are leads, but it's so it's definitely what the goal is, and the process of speaking about it in the present. Actually, the first thing I noticed was that I had a lot of energy. So I didn't really sleep that well last night, and I was like, okay, let me do a little bit of cardio first, and that kind of got me going. But it's just like anything I'm really excited about. If I don't have sleep or whatever, it takes over, and then I feel like I woke up on the right side of the bed. So immediately I just had all this energy. The other thing too was I was already thinking about the next part of the process, which is like, okay, so I got this 3 million now. So like, I'm ready for that 10 million right now.
Right.
So
was that new? Was that new as we were talking about it?
Oh,
was that
totally
new.
Like
a new thought?
A new thought, because there's a certain series that you go for, but you also want to make sure that you're focused on what you need to do now. And so it was like now when I go back to thinking just about raising this initial 3 million, I'm feeling constricted. It's more expansive, like thinking about, yes, the 3 million's already in the bank, and now I got to go for that, as well as what does this business look like as a result, and what things do we have to do, which if you're going for the 10 million makes this 3 million, I mean, not easy, but it is, as well as what would we really use that for to get to the next portion, so there's definitely a new thought. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then how did that feel as you were stating it as if it had already happened? Was there anything there?
So stating having the 3 million already, it's weird because it made me feel just as hungry as I am now for the next part. So there is a little bit of scarcity going on, like, what can we really do? Like until we get this next 10 million,
So it's like, 3 million is now not a big deal because in my mind already have that. So it's now 10 million pushing me for the next one.
And then I felt a little bit limited right now with what I can do, because I'm like, okay,
Is 3 million's not really enough?
Yeah, it felt like not enough. It felt like how I feel now without from what we're working with now to getting the 3 million. It's like, okay, there's not much we can really do between, well, there's a lot we can do, but without that, it's like nothing really makes sense. And so now I had the same kind of feeling knowing that at 3 million and we're already, developing this amazing technology. Now we're, thinking about how to really build, market this and make it big. And I'm going like, yeah, it's, it feels starter kit again.
Right. Interesting. So does it make the 3 million, I don't know, is it a little less intimidating? Because you're
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it feels like 300,000 right now. It just feels like.
Isn't that interesting? They're just numbers.
Yeah, just zeros.
Right?
Yeah.
They're just more zeros, but it's the same idea, and it's relative. And then you think about people like a Warren Buffett. He'd be like 3 million is probably stuck in his between the cushions of his couch or something.
Right.
It's all relative. So at one point you're at the starting point and you're like, wow, 3 million, how are we going to raise that? And then I just kind of saw it in your face. You're like, yeah, been there, done that. Now it's like 10 million. But what changed?
The only thing that's changed, actually, so it's so easy to say mindset, but really it's the extended time that we were talking about it. Like, like let's say, for instance, I do this in my own brain. And, let's say it's visualization or even in conversation with someone where you're feeling it. But when you're actually talking about it in the present for an extended time, like on that topic, we spent I don't know how long that was, 7-8 minutes, or just on that one app topic.
It was more like double that.
Oh yeah. So then it just felt completely real. It's like I already had new problems.
Right. That's pretty cool.
So getting that, it was just like, a breeze.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I felt. Like I was seeing the look on your face was a little bit different. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, I believe you. 3 million seems like not a big deal. And the next challenge is 10 million. So it's interesting when you say, like as a coach yourself as well, when you get to sit on this side of the table watching someone else or listening to someone else, how their perspective changes. And then what physically happened? Like there isn't 3 million in your bank currently physically to make you feel justification of, well, yeah, 3 million's already there, been there, done that. Now it's 10 million. It's just a shift in expectation, right?
Yeah, shift in expectation, and actually, that's a great way to put it. And a clear sense of the feeling of a knowing, it's not hoping. It's not I think expectation is the right word. So if you're hoping to get 3 million, there's a lot that feels out of your control.
But I like how you said knowing. It's a difference between knowing and hoping.
Yes.
Right. It's that shift of, yeah, you're exactly right. I think it's you're not hoping. It's just like, okay, I know that 3 million is going to happen. I'm already planning for what's going to happen after I get that 3 million. It's like that time shift in your brain. A common sales technique is, so imagine if I'm a car salesman. So imagine you're sitting in there in the car. What would it feel like when you have the top down and you're cruising down the street enjoying this car? That's like an NLP sales strategy technique where you get the person to imagine having, it's implied that they already made the decision to buy that car. Right? So that car salesman says, imagine what it'd be like, or how much, or it's presupposing, that's the word. How would it feel? How great would it feel as you're sitting in this convertible driving down, it's a sunny day and the wind in your hair, palm trees and all that. How good does that feel? That question presupposes that he's already made the purchase, but yet they're sitting in the room. So that's very similar. How did that presupposition that I've already got the 3 million, and then now your new problems were, scaling it up, expanding. Walk me through what your thought process was and how that affected you.
So, so that's a really good point, because even outside of the app, I felt my other parts of my life feeling a certain way as a result, because there's sometimes such an emphasis in my own brain about the validation of hitting new milestones and how they affect other parts of my life, like personally, because then it's like it gives me certain options, certain choices, even with investments, with travel, with family time, personal time. So even as I was thinking about that, like for instance, when you're talking about the car salesman, I could also hear the guy saying, and how would it feel like to, your girl or someone you met or whatever, if you're driving this car, and it's just like, so here we have, yes, there is the money there for the app and building this, but then there's this other network of people that now I'm associated with as a result. And, what it did to me was it gave me, even more confidence for not only the next 10 million, but all of these other things that are open as being in the same room with a mastermind group that's like playing way above where I'm playing right now. But knowing that I belong there and I'm in the same arena, so, and that just has a confidence, like a confidence associated with it. And freedom. Like there's a little bit of more freedom. Like I wouldn't say it's like absolute, like, because it's, but there's options and a bigger league associated with that in all areas of my life as a result.
And then also you talked about, I kind of nicknamed you off the cuff, a creator coach. Is that something you're doing currently right now, or is something that is a goal in the next few months?
Yeah, it's a goal. It's a goal. Right now, I've been doing the free workshops, the goal intentional. I see even more intentional workshops than goal setting workshops, more intentional workshops. And
let me give you that platform, right? Because I know it's going to happen. For real, like you're going to be that creator coach, as we were just talking about in the last episode. So I want to give you that some airtime to give a little bit of a commercial. So what is that? What do you do right now, or what have you been doing with this goal setting workshops?
Okay, so with these goal setting workshops, I've been just doing them for a few people, and it's basically just reassessing your goals by giving you some time to write down all your goals as is. Just think about them right now. And then I ask a few other questions like, well, why do you want any of these goals in the first place? And what ends up happening is we start seeing reactions to things versus responses. It could be things like, well, I want this because this happened to me. But it's sometimes it's not the most intentional because it's from a place of reaction or conditioning. I have my own conditioning in this way where I grew up a certain way with a certain consciousness associated with, let's say, for instance, money. A lot of poverty consciousness, don't want too much, just have a simple life, this and that. So as I'm setting some of these goals, some of them are, conservative, realistic, what in the framework. And even if I think I'm pushing the envelope, it's still from this conditioning, or the opposite, overreaching, outlandish things to reject and in rebellion against all my conditioning. So that really happens more in conversation, and really it's the person having a conversation with themselves. And then there's a whole process after that of analyzing and also seeing what's unique about you, how do you see yourself, and then revisiting these goals after a conversation. And it's becomes more of a place of intention and purpose with some clear actions that would be responses versus reactions. So I'd like to do this with as many people, just like you have been, even through your sessions of providing some great free information, and then really with people who really want coaching, and for it to be weekly, monthly, where you can get proper guidance to continue with new challenges, new triggers, new revisiting strategies. That's where I'm really interested in making sure that the results are being attained.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's been give me an example of one of the feedback you've gotten from one of your recent clients that's gone through that? Like what's the end result, or what's the benefit they walked away with?
Clarity. A lot of clarity. Yes. Because one of my most recent clients, she said, it's crazy just how much psychology. I just saw my own psychology, and it was so simple. She said, the tool that you gave me was so simple that I can continue using it within a structure, not just being like, hey, I want to hit this. This is what I got to do. No, there's another tool that you gave me, and it was so simple how you reframed these things. And in particular, some of them have very particular things where they're just like, oh my God, I just needed that one reframing. It's just a little shift, just like the shift, when we were talking about the hope to knowing, shift to expectation. There is a shift in clarity. A lot of the times people are going, I did not understand why I wanted this goal, and I didn't realize that I don't really want this particular goal. So
let me put you on the spot here, as I like to do. It is going to be a challenging question, so prepare for this.
Okay.
What makes you credible to do this? Now, before you answer that, I'll give you a moment to think about this, because the way I know you, let's be real, is Bobby from the block. We used to play basketball together. We used to go to clubs together and stuff, and see you in different house parties and basements in Toronto and whatever. But then you were in Kuya, the musical group, as a performer. And then in my mind, one of the big ones, and I'm going to name drop, is that when you guys wrote the hit song for Sean Desmond. What was that one again?
It was, the first one was Get Ready, and the second one was Shook.
Yeah. And those are big jams back in the day.
Yeah.
And you guys wrote that. You and Sammy, your brother and producing partner, wrote that. So and then now you're, I understand the app, the music stuff, but then you're also now this coach. So put you on the spot in that, somewhere in that journey, what's the credibility that you have to be able to help other people in this area?
I think for me, the credibility lies in someone who had nothing, and whose environment and like largely, parents did not really want us to pursue any of the things that we wanted pursuing as a profession, more like just a hobby. And attaining these milestones, hitting these goals, creating these businesses, that I can share my wisdom and knowledge from having a real dream and vision and actually getting it, and having new ones. So I think the credibility isn't just actually the experience, and also the successes that I've already had. And that lends itself to certain clients that want more, like a lot more. We were the guys who, when we were in the music industry, there were literally no Asians. And when we go on stage, people are like, well, what are these guys going to do? Kung Fu?
Yeah.
But it's all the things that drove us to really succeed and be better than try to be as the best. So now I have these new dreams,
So wait, before we go off to there, because I want to make sure that I do highlight this, that you grew up on the mean streets of North York, right? Or Etobicoke, was it?
Yeah, it was Rexdale. Yeah.
Rexdale. And then you got into the music industry as visible minorities, as Filipinos, and then as performers. Then I guess the first big hit song was with Sean Desmond. Those first two. Feel free to name drop. What are some of the other artists, so that people can understand where you're coming from? Because I get it. Like, I know it because I know you from way back.
Right.
But you've been able to work in the studio with some pretty big names. And again, put in perspective, it's like you're just kids from Rexdale, and then now you've got other stuff. So what are some of the big names that you had the pleasure of working with?
So we've worked with so many amazing artists. In the 90s, it was like Nelly, Mace, Genuine, Capone and Noriega, Remy Ma. When she first started, we did a song with Cuban Link, Remy Ma. And then we went into pop where we were working with Sean Garrett a lot. So there was songs that we did with like Nicole Scherzinger, Jesse McCartney. We did half of Alessia Cara's debut album. And there was, number one Billboard singles there. Christina Aguilera we worked with, Megan Trainor, Kelly Clarkson. I know I'm forgetting so many people, but not just, there's also, we've done a lot of K-pop, big, K-pop artists, a Latin boy band, a CNCO. So there's, a lot of people. And when we started, there also, yes, we're Filipino, a minority, but also there was not many Canadians doing anything worldwide. So we had to really figure it out on our own and go to New York and try to get in these studios, in these rooms without internet. Home setup is easy $30,000 for a home setup back then, not a computer. So it was really, really difficult. And alongside all of those journeys, I really studied a lot. I had a lot of like self-help mentors via book authors, and self-help for business, reading a lot of material. And really what it did was just strengthen my mindset, because all of these things were just unrealistic, unattainable to anybody. Mm-hmm. And I remember one guy from high school, he saw me on the street one day and he was like, "You're so stupid for getting into music. You were like one of the smartest guys in high. We all thought you were going to be a doctor. You're literally the stupidest guy."
He said that to you?
Said this to me. I was walking on the street, haven't seen him since high school. A couple years later, heard about me doing music, and he struggled so much with school, and it came easily to me. I fast tracked, saved up for music school, went there. But yeah, so
that's really cool. I think I see that as your credibility, not that's the big names or whatever and the cool stuff with music, but the fact that you intentionally created that. Because like in the 80s, 90s, it's kind of normal now or a little bit normalized with people like Joe Coy getting out there, Crazy Rich Asians. But back in the 80s, 90s, there was like, as a Filipino, as an Asian, as a visible minority, you don't see that. And it's like, well, I want to be a recording artist or I want to be a producer. There was really not a lot of visible, examples. These days, totally different. But I think that's huge that you intentionally created. You didn't just go with the flow, get into, not to knock any other Filipinos, but didn't get just into the medical industry like our parents wanted us to, or things like that. But I think that's really huge. How much of that do you bring to your coaching in terms of, the raw, you can do it, intentional, or do you, how deep have you been able to go with some of your coaching clients?
It has been pretty deep in that regard, because even if it's a different situation I'm largely, now that I come to think of it, I'm largely dealing with outliers. I don't know how that came to be or how I attracted these clients, but these are all people that are have had a similar struggle. And it might be, someone that is a woman, minority group in a male-dominant government corporate structure, and experiencing all those same things, but it's not the same way I did. But it's same principles, same kind of feelings of setbacks, and how to navigate, how to ally with certain people, And it's a big thing, because with us, there was really no one else out there. So we were not only Filipinos and Asians, we were also from a place that people thought where Eskimos lived. Like literally no one knew what Canada really was. And Toronto is popping right now. Everyone knows Drake, Weeknd, blah, blah, blah. They were literally like, why is this Chinese guy in the studio with us? And you guys have igloos, right? That's literally the mentality that was going on back then. So it was, we really had to prove that we had real value, and that, and along an ally with certain people that had our back as well. And team, like we're very grateful that people looked out for us, saw that, nurtured us, and that is what we do, which is why I love the name also too of our production company, Kuya Productions, Big Brother. We take that kind of philosophy with people we mentor. We are other people's Kuyas, as well as our publishing company, Velvet Tree, which is the same kind of mentorship. But, Velvet has a great quality to it. That's something we look for. But Tree is, we provide foundation for people. So we look for the quality. You can grow with us and have a good foundation. And just like leaves, at some point, if you want to drop down and create your own tree, support you in that. If you want to continue growing with us, you can as well.
I love it. Love that imagery. Now, it was kind of by design where I give you that platform to brag about yourself, really, and shamelessly promote yourself. I think that's great, because the whole idea of the Act As If is to, number one, to allow my guests to be able to feel the feelings of what it would be like when you're successful, but then also the fact that this is going to be out there forever on the interwebs for eternity. It could also be a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I have no doubt that it will be eventually, given enough time as well. So for anyone who's listening to this podcast or watching this wherever, who knows where it's going to be, how could they get in touch with you with the different aspects? So again, feel free to let the universe know how they can come to you and align with you. First, like with the app, with the consulting, the publishing, all of that stuff. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you, to reach out to you?
So I would say the two ways. The first way that I love is through my Instagram, which is Bobby Brass Music. That's my handle on Instagram, Bobby Brass Music, as well as it's easy to remember that my Gmail for that, bobbybrassmusic@gmail.com.
Okay, great.
So I love the interaction on Instagram, because I can also see other people's profiles, get a sense of them as well, and have a little bit of a conversation there, because it's chat friendly. And then any real inquiries, people can email me at bobbybrassmusic@gmail.
Great. Excellent. So that's been awesome. I really enjoyed catching up with you on both parts of ours. Any final thoughts of wisdom, or one question I like asking is if you're able to speak to yourself from the past, because as coaches, oftentimes we like to coach younger versions of ourselves would be our ideal clients, coaching clients. So if you could speak to a younger version of yourself that didn't quite know what to do, where to go, knowing what you know now, what kind of advice would you give a younger Bobby Brass?
Oh, that's a good question. For me in particular, because it was natural for me to socialize, natural for me to dream and go after these outlandish things. I would say to my older self, I would say younger self. Younger self. I would say really develop a good relationship with doing the things that you don't want to do. Developing habits of that you just have to do, like work out all the time, whether you feel like it or not. Get to the gym. It's like you could dream about this amazing body all day, but if you don't actually do the work, it's just dreaming, right? So I'm really good at seeing visions and doing these things that feel good. But then there's so much about it that you just are tedious in nature. But those things add up to a lot daily. And that was the same thing with the daily mindset. It's like exercises of the mind, exercise of the body, and then the things that I don't want to do, really just get those out of the way, and you can continue. Because to me, that's the things that I'm doing right now that are amounting to a lot of the success, as well as
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Very wise advice. Thank you very much. So once again, Bobby Brass, thank you for being a guest on my Act As If podcast. And can't wait to have you again in the future and be able to say, objectively, this actually happened. And here's at least a record of when some of those sprouts started.
Yeah. And you know what, Roel, this is awesome. I think this should be mandatory for people in their lives to do just like this, speaking in the present, your future self in the present. I think this would just, I'd actually want to do this regularly, so, yeah. I think this is fantastic. So thanks for having me on, and, keep inspiring people.
All right. Thank you. And you too as well, Bobby.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
You've been listening to the Act As If podcast with Coach Roel. Real life success stories in business and investing as they happen.